Welcome to Crypto Sapiens, a show that hosts lively discussions with innovative Web3 builders to help you learn about decentralized money systems, including Ethereum, Bitcoin, and DeFi. The podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and it is not financial advice. Crypto Sapiens is presented in partnership with Bankless DAO, a movement for pioneers seeking freedom from the limitations of the traditional financial system. Bankless DAO will help the world go bankless by creating user-friendly on-ramps for people to discover decentralized financial technologies through education, media, and culture. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Crypto Sapiens. Today, we are talking with Artorias, a founding member of Cult DAO. I am pretty excited about this episode, as we take a deep dive into a project that has gotten a lot of attention from many influential Web3 figures for their creative governance and tokenomics. Cult DAO is a decentralized venture capital platform whose manifesto, an evocative piece written by Mr. Amodulus, an anonymous person that founded the DAO, sets the tone for the project. We explore the DAO, made up of guardians who propose projects for funding, and the community who votes on the projects that are funded, and the Cult token with its hyper-deflationary mechanism. Without further ado, let's get started.
So I've been in crypto for some time now, working on other projects in which I am normally doxed, but obviously this was something a little bit different, so I felt like I needed to have an alter ego that would, so that, I mean, everyone that's involved, myself and Mr. Amodulus, we're not doxed because there's no need for it, because it shouldn't impact what Cult does. So that's one of the reasons I've remained anonymous. But I guess I've been working in crypto. Obviously can't say what it is I've been working on, but I was contacted anonymously by Mr. Amodulus, which is basically how I got dragged into this. And he showed me what he had, which was the bare bones of, actually it was most of the meat and potatoes of Cult DAO. He pretty much had this thing ready to go when I got involved. So, I don't really know how much more I can say.
Let's talk about Cult DAO, because that is really kind of one of the first rules of it, isn't it? Is we talk about Cult DAO. So what is it?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that's so difficult to describe because it's something that's, in my opinion, is quite new to the space, to crypto, to Web3. I suppose in the simplest terms, it is a decentralized venture capitalist platform. In its very most basic form, it is an investment fund, which is we've got a treasury that's built up from transaction fees, and then you apply for investment if you're a guardian, which is the top 50 stakers, and then if it gets approved by the many, who's everyone outside the top 50, then you receive the investment for whatever project it is that you are backing, whether it's your own or whether it's on behalf of somebody else that you feel needs that investment. And then that investment is then used to grow the project or wherever it's going. And then those rewards are sent back to the stakers, who are everyone who is staked, not just the voters, not just the people outside the top 50, but everyone receives the rewards. And then on top of that, there's the hyper-deflationary mechanisms, which is that every time one of these investments goes out, you've got 2.5 ETH worth of Cult at the time of execution that is immediately burnt. So you've got a total of 15.5 ETH of Cult leaves the treasury, and 2.5 is burned instantly, and 13 goes to the investee. And then when the rewards are sent back, 50% of all the rewards are burned, and 50% are used to buy back Colt, which is then sent to the stakers. So there's a lot of elements that make this really beneficial. Every time a proposal goes through, you've got three main things that are crucial for the longevity of Colt, and which is why it's built to last. And you've got the first, which is the instant burn. You've got the second, which is another burn on delivery of the rewards, and the third is the rewards themselves. So if you're staking and you're taking part in this whole ecosystem, which is pushing these proposals through, which are then benefiting grassroots, small projects trying to get off the ground, it's really a win-win situation.
Yeah, that's quite unique in this space, right? I think you're talking about the very thoughtful tokenomics that have been developed, and also the way that Colt DAO has chosen to go about incentivizing their community of, stakers. So before we jump in too deep into the meat and potatoes of this stuff, one thing that I thought was really interesting was your, the Colt DAO's choice for, the choosing the manifesto and kind of mobilizing the community and kind of sharing what they were about in that form. Can you talk a little bit about, writing the manifesto, not necessarily saying that you wrote it, but, what was the purpose of that? And I guess, what are some of the effects that you've seen? What are some of the feedback that you've gotten from the community from writing such a, kind of thoughtful piece?
Yeah, I definitely can't take the credit for the manifesto, because that's how I read that the same way that everyone else has. And, it's hard to say, where that comes from, because obviously it's written by Mr. Homogulous, but, the kind of stuff that's in there, that it touches on so many different facets of the world we live in, feelings, there's bits about like political leanings and, mental health. And one of the things I've always said, since I read it and publicly as well, is that there's a lot of stuff in there, and not everyone's going to relate to all of it, but there's something in there that I feel anybody can relate to. There's, not everyone's got belief in, things like Extinction Rebellion, that kind of environmental, political anarchism. Some people might think, oh, that's not me. But, something like mental health that's a struggle that a lot of people have and have to deal with. And it's clear that, whoever this guy is, he's feeling a lot of things that a lot of us are feeling too. And it just has put that onto paper. And it's almost a rally for the people. Aside from it being, the section about, it being for a cryptocurrency project, just the general idea that, there are people that are being taken advantage of, and, we don't deserve to be treated in some of the ways that we're being treated. And I think that's what's really resonated with a lot of people, is that we're better than this, and we deserve better than this. And yeah, it just seems to have, lit a candle up under people's asses. And I think that's one of the things that's really got people, not just financially invested, but emotionally invested too, is being able to relate to that, where that's coming from.
Yeah, certainly. I think we've seen a change over the last couple of years in terms of the way that the adoption of cryptocurrencies and just the whole decentralized ecosystem, particularly, I'm sure, inspired by, what has been happening around the world with the pandemic and everything else. So I always enjoy seeing projects that kind of lean into that and seek to inspire their community as a way to organize them and, incentivize them for their participation, and to build out an ecosystem that is different from, maybe what is the status quo. And certainly, I think for most of us, that's what we're here to do, right? We're hoping to build out something that's different, something that is a positive sum, and we're creating value and not just necessarily extracting value from the people that we interact with and the projects that we're building and so on. So that's really, I was personally very inspired by that as well, in terms of reading that manifesto and kind of seeing the way that very personal and the evocative story was able to make a connection. So something else in terms of Cult DAO that I think is worthy of kind of recognition is the whole, I guess the mimetic value of it as well. I would say that personally, when I first heard of Cult DAO, I kind of scratched my head a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't get it. The word cult, especially in the crypto space, I think it is one of those things that can really drive a wedge, I think, between people and communities. But after hearing, I got to be honest, after hearing other people talk about Cult DAO, or just the word cult in general, as a way of bringing people together through that mimetic value of it, I started to kind of understand it a little bit more, and I guess soften my stance on just the language, the narrative of it. I'm curious if you wouldn't mind, just maybe from your own personal experience and also the discussions that may have already happened within the Discord about, that type of narrative. What are some of the things that you've seen to be of value from kind of driving the project with that kind of, meme, if you will, which is like the whole cult meme?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element to it where, this whole, I think a lot of people, I think, are almost treating cult as a meme coin, which is, that's okay. People want to feel that way about it. They can feel that way. It's certainly, if you look at the chart, it's had that hype that you see a lot with, meme coins. And at the end of the day, although maybe it wasn't an intention to, just to be a meme, it's helped in the way that, the biggest thing that runs cult is volume. And, whether you've got people buying, people selling, it's all contributing to the treasury, which is the fundamental part of the proposal mechanism. So I can understand people taking a look at the charts and seeing it, the meme value of cult, which, I don't share that belief, because I think that's too shallow a look at the project. But you can't help the way people perceive something today. It's just, I think if you scratch away the surface and take 10, 15 minutes out of your day to read the manifesto and take a look at the Discord, it definitely shows itself to be a lot more than that, and it has, real utility.
Yeah. I mean, so let's talk about the Guardians for a little bit. It was an interesting way of selecting Guardians for Cult DAO. And, in fact, one of the reasons why I personally became more and more attracted to the project, and I think many people that I've talked to feel the same way, is the people that were engaged, and even some of those who have become guardians of the project, are people who I would say are staunch defenders of decentralization. They're working pretty, consistently, not just like short-term, but long-term contributions to this space to kind of move decentralization forward. Some of these folks that I saw being talked about as, guardians, or having been reached out, are, I would say people that I've talked to and engaged with to some degree, like Evan McMullen and Oren and Sinjin, David Hoffman, like a lot of people that, run in my circles as well. So just curious to understand the thought process behind the outreach for Guardians and really their purpose in the ecosystem as well.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there. These were people that were chosen, not by me. I admit this was all Mr. Homogeneous is doing, but as you say, they were chosen because they embody, the kind of morals and ethics and beliefs in decentralization that Cult does. They're all people that are championing, Web3 and trying to bring power back into the hands of the people, which is exactly what Cult wants to do. I think it's been a success because I believe there's been one person who was given a pre-allocation as a guardian who dumped, and they were definitely spoken out about on Twitter afterwards. But other than that, I believe all of those guardians are still guardians, as far as I'm aware. There were 50 that were initially shortlisted, but only 15 responded and were given that allocation. And I think that's a pretty good record that we've got. Only one of those that basically just said, "Nah, not interested," after having agreed to getting this allocation. Take from that what you will, but yeah, it seems to have been the right people that were chosen, because I believe they're all still actual guardians. A lot of them are very active in the Discord. I know there's a few who are working on proposals. A lot of them are busy because these are guys who are, they're public figures, so they've got stuff going on. So we don't expect them to be in the Telegram chat every day. We don't expect them to be in the Discord every day, but a lot of them are active, which is good. And we've got a few of them I know are working on proposals. So I'm very excited to see what comes of that.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. Walk me through, I guess, the process, because what we're talking about, it's a place for people and projects to be able to gain access to capital. It's like a democratic or decentralized VC fund, if you will. So what's the process here in terms of, the way that the Treasury contributes to these funds and the way that, guardians are creating proposals and projects can submit ideas and get funding? Like, what does that process look like? And what are some of these investments that may have already been made or are, may be made in the near future?
Yeah, we've had the Discord is really good at the moment. It's like a proper hub of there's kind of two layers to it. There's the general chit chat and the people talking about the price. The sentiment changes in there depending on what's going on in the charts. That's just natural. But then you have this layer above that where you've got all these guardians. There's a special channel for anyone that is a guardian, and in there it is a constant flurry of these guys talking about proposal ideas that they've got. They've got people who are reaching out to them with their own ideas, saying, "Would you put this forward on my behalf?" But, there's a few channels in there where people can submit their ideas, where it can be picked up. But a lot of it either comes from the guardians themselves having projects they believe in, or just chatting to people that have dropped. So there's pre-proposal causes, which is a channel where people basically put in their ideas and then they can talk more about it. And then once the details are starting to iron out, a workshop gets created in the Discord, and then in there people can talk about their proposals in more detail, and then it almost becomes like an Ask Me Anything with the people either proposing or from the projects, which is really good, because it means that people have the chance to question and do their own research on these proposals before they just vote on it. And it means instead of just blindly voting something through just because you want to see the cult burn, it means people are they're having that option to be able to do their own research. The same way you would do your own research, or you should do your own research when you're going to invest in a token. If you've got 1 ETH spare, you don't just take it to the first coin that you see on CoinMarketCap and say, "I'm going to buy that." Someone that knows what they're doing goes and finds out a little bit more. They ask questions, and that's what's really good, which I've been really impressed by at the moment. Is just if you look at the proposals that have been submitted, we've had a really good mix of, a good variety in the types of proposals, as well as you've got ones that are not passing, you've got ones that are passing, they've got different levels of votes on them, which shows that, people are using their heads and they're thinking about it, and they're actually choosing what they think is worthy, instead of just putting anything they can through. Mm-hmm. And that was something I was mildly concerned by when we first launched, that it wouldn't become an actual, it wouldn't be investing in interesting projects. There would just be people putting any old rubbish in, and it would get passed, and then we'd get a burn, and that was that. But there's some really interesting stuff going through. Just off the top of my head, we've had ones there's a marketing one which has just passed, which was to get Colt up on a billboard in Times Square. So we're in the process of getting that sorted, which should be good. That's a nice way to try and spread the word, grow the project some more. And then you've got ones like the inverse finance ones, which are basically yield farming. So what that aims to do is start bringing in steady rewards to stakers. So at the moment, where we're in the early stages of these proposals, there's a time lag for rewards coming in, and that's what people are questioning the platform about, because they're not seeing lots of rewards rolling in yet. But that's only because, we're looking long term, when we've had all these proposals successfully go through, and then we've got the successful projects sending rewards back. In a few months' time, we're going to see a steady flow of rewards and burns. So it's really going to pick up momentum. And yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the community, honestly, with how they've taken it upon themselves to vote through the stuff they believe in, and to reject the stuff that they don't.
Yeah, that's great. So let me, I guess, recap for my own benefit. It sounds like the process here is for Colt holders to stake their tokens. This allows them to be able to use that both in terms of gaining rewards, but also participate in the governance or voting of these proposals that are coming through. For anyone who is trying to build a project or get funding through, Colt DAO, it sounds like they can write those proposals, but they only will be put through governance if a guardian sponsors it. So once that guardian sponsors it, it goes up for voting. And it sounds like even then, the community is being very thoughtful about the types of projects that are being voted on. So they're definitely doing their research. They're vetting these projects to make sure that the funding is going to projects that are going to add value or create value back to the Colt DAO. Did I follow that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so anyone staking, you get the governance token, which is deCult, and then the top 50 holders of deCult are the guardians, and then everyone else is the many. So yeah, guardians propose but can't vote, and then the many can vote but they can't propose. So it takes some of the power out of the hands of the whales, and it puts it in everyone else's hands.
Yeah, that's interesting. So walk me through a little bit of that, because you said two things there that really intrigued me. One of them is, taking power away from the whales, but also the way that this voting mechanism works. Is this being managed, in a decentralized way? In other words, is voting done by smart contracts, or how is that done?
Yeah, it's completely decentralized. So there's it's all done via smart contracts. There's no human involvement whatsoever, other than the person proposing and people voting. So when a project is successful, that burn happens automatically, and the funds from the treasury are sent automatically to the recipient wallet. So it doesn't rely on anyone getting in the way. Contracts have been renounced for Colt, deCult, the staking platform, the treasury, everything. So there's no access to any of those contracts whatsoever anymore. So no one can withdraw from the treasury. No one can play around with the tax. It's all completely decentralized now.
Wow, that's really amazing. So, I mean, I can see why, the focus was on decentralization and onboarding these decentralization maxis, if you will, right? Early on as Guardians was to kind of promote that type of, ethos, firstly, but also processes. And so it sounds like, that's definitely been implemented here, even through the way that this funding gets distributed and voted on and then distributed. So that's really great. So you were talking about ways of, or the way that you minimize the impact of whales. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what was the thought process there? And, maybe even like, if you wouldn't mind kind of reiterating how, the process within Cult DAO is kind of minimizing that impact.
Yeah, I think that's something, it's a mechanism I haven't seen in another DAO before, which is you get a lot of problems. There was a protocol the other day that I think it was Beanstalk that got hacked because someone was able to flash loan like $1 billion worth of the token, and it gave them the rights to emergency withdraw millions of dollars of funds. And I think one of the things that's great about Cult is just there's nothing like that can happen because it's completely, it's all locked up. And the idea of giving the top 50, they've got the ability to propose but not to vote means that whereas in some DAOs it's it's weighted towards the people, the whales. So if someone wants to vote something through, a lot of people might vote on it, but then a couple of wallets could come along and say no thank you, and completely tip the scales. And I think the way we've done it is nothing's perfect. I don't think there'll ever be a perfect DAO because there's just too many variables involved. But I think we've done a fairly decent job of making it a fair system where you're leveling the playing field so that those people with the smaller wallets are able to, they're able to have their say, they're able to contribute rather than just being completely outweighted by one massive wallet.
Maybe walk us through a little bit about some of the planning, like maybe how much of that was done before you came in, or maybe if you contributed to that, what some of the thought process was to developing this really comprehensive, tokenomics, structure and the way that it operates with both, using it as an incentive, if you will, for attracting guardians, but also using it as a incentive for the community to also earn from both the, liquidity of the token, but from the, funding of projects.
Yeah, that was another thing it was delivered to me the same way that most people have seen it now. I didn't have too much contribution into the tokenomics itself, but one of the things that struck me with it is that it's created a token that's built to last, and it's literally built to function even at lower price points, because all that matters for Cult is volume, because that's what fills the treasury, which funds the proposals. And one of the beautiful things is that when the price is lower, because when the treasury, when the proposals go through, the value of it is always calculated in comparison to Ethereum. So no matter what the price of Cult is, when a burn is happening, it's happening valued compared to ETH. So obviously now 2.5 ETH worth of Cult is a lot more Cult tokens than it was when we were at our all-time high. So what that means is that even if there's sell pressure that's causing the price to dip, all that's doing is just taking more tokens out of circulation faster, which then allows us to continue growing exponentially. So what that means is that it turns Colt into just it's just a waiting game. It's because of how much is getting burned over time. Like if you look at the treasury now, it's got just under 1,000 ETH worth of Colt in it. 16% of each proposal investment is burned straight away. So what we're saying is 16% of that 1,000 ETH, which is 160 ETH, that is Colt that is guaranteed to burn, because the only way that can come out is through proposals, and that means that's just on the way out as well. So you've got 160 ETH in there, which is guaranteed to burn. Plus, you've got half of all the rewards coming back, which are burned as well. And, as the price dips, that's just more and more Colt that's going to a dead wallet forever. So what happens is that there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure over time on the circulating supply. And obviously, if you've got Colt in your wallet, that's not going to burn. So it's going to be all the stuff every time the transactions are made. It's the treasury that's building up, and it's going to cause the majority of the burn. So as long as there's volume, that means that the tokenomics are sound. It means that Colt has a future.
And that's a wrap. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you'd like to talk about Colt DAO, go to ColtDAO.io and on Twitter at WeAreColtDAO. Thanks for listening to Crypto Sapiens. Please give us a follow, like, and a 5-star review wherever you enjoy your podcasts. And stay tuned for our next discussion.